Can she see us?
I don't know. She's just one of this. This is the.
Okay, hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Zoom. My name is Omer Shabbat. I'm the Shaliach in the Jewish Federation of Greater Nashville. This is my second year, and through the situation that we have in Israel, we decided to make the conversation with the Yaron Deckel that I will introduce right now. I want to thank you all for your free time and that you join us tonight. So I'm going to start. For almost 3.5 decades, was considered one of the most reported, well-known journalists in Israel. Yaron Deckel career spanned over 3 decades of reporting, editing, hosting, and serving as a leader of Israel's most popular radio station. From 2012 to 2017, Deckel served as an editor and chief of the CEO of Galei Tzahal, the national public radio station. In 2015, he began to host a weekly primetime radio talk show on politics. As political reporter and communicator for both radio and television for the past 3 decades, he has closely followed the in and out Israeli politics and governments, developing close relationships with all the decision makers in Israel, including top politics and military leaders. He has covered the last 12 Israeli election campaign. Between 2002 and 2007, Deckel served as the Washington, D.C. bureau chief for the Israeli public TV, where he covered U.S.-Israel relations and traveled the U.S. reporting on social and cultural issues. As well on internal U.S. politics, Deckel was the first Israeli journalist who interviewed President George W. Bush. He also interviewed Presidents Carter and Clinton, among other U.S. leaders. During his time in the U.S., he created a 5-part TV documentary, The Israelis, documenting the lives of the Israelis that living in the U.S. and Canada, and 4-part documentary about Jewish identity in North America. Deckel is the winner of several awards, including the Sokolov Awards, the most prestigious award of journalists in Israel. He also was the Bnei Brit Award from special coverage of the Jewish community in the US. Today, Deckel is the regional director to Canada, joined recently to the Jewish Agency, and now based in Toronto, Owen. As a director, Yaron is working to connect between the Canadian Great Jury and Israel. So, Yaron, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Omer, and thank you very much for having me tonight in this Zoom with the Nashville community. You have a great city. I've been there once or twice, and I do like coming to your state and your city. And as mentioned, I was living in the United States for over 5 years as a reporter on my previous work as a journalist, which sometimes I do miss. We are in a very challenging and difficult times, and I'm sure everybody is following the situation right now in Israel. And sometimes it's unclear where it all leads to, and what's the goal, what's the purpose, and what could be the outcome of the operation of this war against Hamas that Israel conducting since the Bloody Saturday, which I call the Bloody Saturday of October the 7th, the second day of the second holiday of Sukkot, as we remember. It's over a month since this horrified, brutal attack on Israeli soil that people totally didn't expect. It was an unexpected terror attack on an unexpected, surprising scale. And people in Israel were, I think, still traumatized by this horrific event. It's quite clear that we are fighting now one of the most, if not the most, cruel enemy of Israel, a fearful, cruel enemy that I would like to share with you that this week I went to the Israeli consulate here in Toronto to watch the film that the IDF produced about that day, using security cameras, Hamas cameras, the rescue team cameras, and thus trying to put things together. It's 46 minutes film. It's very, very difficult to watch the atrocities that those people created. We are talking about 3,000 people who invaded Israel and crossed the border. And some people compare it to the Nazis, mentioning that since the World War II, there was not a single day that so many Jews were killed on a day. And we are talking about 1,400 people. I don't like to compare anything to the Nazis. I think the Nazism was a unique phenomena that we should remember the Holocaust. But there is one difference between those terrorists, brutal, cruel terrorists, and the Nazis. We remember that the Nazis did try to hide their atrocities. The Hamas killers came with cameras to get evidence and expose their inhuman behavior. And this is a major change since the 40s. Now, what I saw on that film, and there is a debate, a huge debate in Israel, should it be put on YouTube and exposed to the world public or not? It hasn't been on Israeli networks. It wasn't released there. It was shown mainly for journalists around the world, those who cover the brutal attack, the terrorist attack, and those who cover the Hamas. I was a bit disappointed that the Canadian network, the CBC reporters, didn't come to this screening, because the CBC doesn't call the Hamas a terror organization, but militant organization. And those brutal terrorists are militants. And I was a bit surprised that they didn't come. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised that they didn't come to the Israeli consulate here in Toronto to watch and maybe change their mind about what exactly terror organization is, because beheading babies is not just militants. We are talking about monsters. Now, it's quite clear that all the expectations or hopes that the Hamas will moderate along the years just exploded on that Saturday. There was a thinking, mainly by Israel and others, that once the Hamas has to take care of 2.2 million people, they will create their own state with a competition to the Palestinian Authority, which runs the West Bank as a kind of their state or state in the future if the peace process resumes sometimes, and this is a big question too. And it's quite clear that the money Hamas received from the Hamas took power in 2007 by force, fighting the Palestinian Authority. There wasn't really a fight because the Palestinian Authority was weak then, so they just took control of Gaza Strip, and it's clear that along the years when they received the money from the Qatari supportive regime, which now is important, takes an important role on the negotiation behind the scenes to release the hostages, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. The money, the $10 million they received every month, they used it mostly not to welfare or Medicare or education or infrastructure. The people in Gaza are still very poor, but for ammunition and rocket producing and all this kind of training people, getting guns, machine guns, missiles and rockets to kill Israelis. And so the goal of Israel right now is to eliminate the Hamas ability to do it again, and also to fire rockets to Israel. Because in the last 10 years, every few months there was, or a year, there was a round of rockets from Gaza Strip, first to the area near the border, and then to city centers in the central Israel, like Tel Aviv, or even once or twice or a few times to Jerusalem, trying to kill Israelis. Luckily, Israel had produced the Iron Dome, which protects the life of Israel, not by 100%. The coverage of Iron Dome is not 100% safe, but still it saves lots of people's lives. So the goal is, first of all, to eliminate the Hamas abilities to the infrastructure, the leadership, the fighters, to fight this terror machine. And it's not easy, because there are several thousands of terrorists, very well organized, and they built, according to the intelligence, 600 kilometers of tunnels. According to the information I have, Israel was able to block or destroy 100 kilometers. So 500 kilometers, and they hide there. And it's tough, and they are very well prepared for this incursion. And they use their people as human shields. We know that they don't care about people's lives, but they don't care about Palestinian lives either. So that's why their headquarters is on the basement of the largest hospital in Gaza. And there are ammunition and rockets at basements of mosques, schools, hospitals, all places that they assume that a country like Israel, which behaves differently according to war rules, international war rules, will not bomb a hospital or a mosque. And this is a big question and a debate. How can Israel tolerate this fact that the people of Gaza are used as human shield? That's why Israel called again and again and again for the civilians, and it's quite clear that not all 2.2 million Palestinians are terrorists. But we saw the happiness in Gaza when the abducted hostages arrived, how happy they were for the success of the Hamas terrorists of killing so many. The question of the hostages is a very delicate, important, deep question, because there are 240 Israelis kept by Hamas and Islamic Jihad, two terrorist organizations. They are not kept in one place. So it's very difficult to think of a military operation that will free them all. They are very well hidden. And the ages of the hostages varies from 90 years old elderly to 9-month-old baby. There is a hostage baby who is 9 months old. According to the information we have, they are not in the same place, and they are very well hidden. 4 of them were released by the Hamas, 2 American citizens from Chicago. There are quite a few with dual citizenship, which makes it more difficult because the Hamas wants to release those who have dual citizenship, and Israel says, we do not accept this selection of better and worse, more vulnerable, less vulnerable. 1 soldier, female soldier, was released by the army, the Israeli army, in a very courageous operation, but she was the only one who was kept there in that apartment. So the situation is also delicate because nobody wants the 240 hostages to be found in a crossfire. And so there are efforts on the ground to get to the hostages. And at the same time, there is a secret behind-the-scene track to find a way for a deal between Israel and Hamas. It's quite a paradox that you fight this horrible terrorist organization, ruthless terrorist organization, and at the same time, you're trying to make a deal. Obviously, Israel doesn't negotiate with the Hamas, but the Qatari supportive government, supportive for the Hamas, negotiates, and also Egypt, which has a peace treaty with Israel since 1979. And the Egyptians totally don't like the Hamas, and they don't want to see hundreds of thousands of refugees fleeing from Gaza Strip to Egypt. That's a nightmare for the Egyptian regime. So we don't know if this is going to be fruitful. The deal people are talking about is freeing all the 240 in exchange to 6,000 Hamas prisoners who are now in Israeli several jails. But then the Hamas will lose their cards if all the hostages are free, and they like to use their cards. The last time they had a Trump card was 13 years ago, when they had 1 Israeli soldier, and for 5 years. And for releasing him, Israel released 1,100 terrorists. Some of them came back to terror, and some of them, but that was the deal, and it was supported by the public opinion. And as you know, as a great democracy, the public opinion is important in democracy, in economy, and in war, in a wartime. So I think the Israeli sentiment will approve such a deal. And there is a consensus in Israel that the war should continue to try to eliminate the abilities of the Hamas. On that Black Saturday, and I'm coming back to that day because the memory of what I watched is so vivid, is so strong, is so lively. 20 kids under the age of 18 lost both parents. So they are orphans now from both parents because their parents were killed. Some of them were killed in front of the kids' eyes. There was a scene that 2 kids at the age of 9 and 11, or 8 and 10, were hiding with their father, and the terrorists threw a grenade, which killed the father immediately. And then the kids come back to the room, and there is a security camera in the room, and they just talk about what they saw, that the father was killed. And one of them said, "I wished I was not alive now," and he's 10 years old. "I wish I was dead." So 20 are orphans from both parents. 96 lost one parent. under the age of 18. And people who are more adults at the ages of 18 to 35 lost 18 of them lost their parents. So we have children who lost their parents. We have more youth and more adults who lost both parents. Many of them on that Black Saturday. Now, two more factors which is really important to mention. One is the role of the United States. The president made an amazing supportive gesture by coming to Israel in the midst of a war. He was the first American president to arrive in the middle of a war. Even in Yom Kippur War, President Nixon sent his Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. He didn't arrive at that time. And President Biden arrived, and the US administration is involved in the planning and supervising and watching what's going on the ground, including sending 2 aircraft carriers, one to the Red Sea, one to the Mediterranean, because of the option, the fear and the concern that Iran might get involved. Iran has a proxy in the Middle East, the Hezbollah. The Hezbollah is 10 times bigger than the Hamas. The Hezbollah is actually an army which controls the state of Lebanon. So Iran can order the Hezbollah to get into the war. The Hezbollah in the last month did shoot and did kill, but not on a full scale. It's quite clear that the Hezbollah would like to remind everybody that the organization is there, but not promoting. I don't think they are really want to promote the Hamas issues. Hamas is a Sunni and the Hezbollah is a Shiite. I don't see right now, and I might be wrong, a great temptation of the Iranians to get involved, to fight for the Palestinians. It's better to be a threat than to get to a war which nobody knows what will be the consequences for the Iranians. I would like to remind everybody that the end of the Second Lebanon War, 2006, after a while, the head of the Hezbollah, Nasrallah, said that knowing the consequences of the war, he wouldn't abduct 2 Israeli soldiers, which were killed during the attack, because the Hezbollah suffered a lot. It wasn't worth it, as he said. So why should they repeat that mistake? Israel is ready at the northern border and also at the southern border. But many towns and villages and kibbutzim had to evacuate due to the risk for their citizens, not only in the south, also in the north. Around 260,000 people are not at home. 260,000 due to a risk of being close to a northern border or a southern border. And there is a lot of work to do. The North America Jewish community was immediate in help. So far, North America made a donation of over $500 million, mainly for rebuilding and supporting those who are victims of terror. The Jewish agency which I represent helped already 3,600 families. Each one got $1,000 immediately for support, and some of them will get to $6,000 for support. And the aim is to reach 6,000 families. Now we are in 3,600. So it's a great and amazing help of the Jewish community all over, from coast to coast, and Canada too, of course. We raised in Canada around $90 million out of the 500. So helping the victims of terror is important. And before opening for questions, I'd like to mention that the spirit of the Israelis and the Jewish world is unequivocal, and it's amazing, and it gives me a lot of hope. We were in the judicial plan debate before the war, and people threatened not to come to the reserve service. The IDF reports that the reserve service attendancy is 130%, 30% above the need. People come. Flights from North America and Europe are full with Israelis who live overseas and want to come and volunteer. 2 days ago, a lone soldier, female from the United States, was stabbed and died. I saw just a report, a very moving report, that since she was a lone soldier, she came with Garin Tzabar. I'm sure everybody is familiar with Tzabar, which is an amazing project. I know people who participated in Garin Tzabar, all are very Zionist supportive, young adults. And she was killed, she was murdered. And I just saw a report before our meeting here that thousands of Israelis who never heard of her and don't know her family came to the funeral to pay respect. And the unity, the spirit of unity, the atmosphere of we all in the same boat, the same fight, the same fighting for our security, for our lives. And the Israelis share the same spirit and feeling and atmosphere with the Jews in the diaspora. And we see it all over North America and in Europe too. And it's very, very important. So people sometimes ask me, what can we do? We donate money and it's important. Yes, donations, this is important. It goes to the right hands. Totally important. And you know, bureaucracy, the Israeli government bureaucracy will get there, but the Jews get there first. The Jews in the diaspora and the volunteers in Israel get there first. Secondly, the support. There are missions going to Israel right now from the United States, from Canada, of different communities to come and show the support. It's really important for the Israelis. And the last thing, I think, which is a battle to be continued, is on the public opinion. To be in rallies, at the streets, and we see pro-Palestinians all over, pro-Palestinian rallies. Even in the smallest community in Canada, which is the city of Windsor, just across the river from Detroit, Michigan, there have been already at least 3 rallies of pro-Palestinians, and the Jewish community had its event and behind closed doors with the police protection, but still being in the streets, it gets a media coverage, presence in the media, and it's important. And the last thing that I ask people who ask me what to do is the social media. Be very active on the social media. Some people are not connected. Their grandchildren are, their nephews are, their children are. And it could be a Facebook and a TikTok, an Instagram, or whatever, Telegram. There are a lot of misleading lies, half-truth, distorted truth over there. Some people believe that Israel invented everything. And there are so many evidence online everywhere. The government of Israel has a site, and the Jewish Agency has a site with things about that. The IDF has a site. And people can use the information and the clips and the footage and the pictures and remind the Arab side that when Israel was declared as a state by the UN in 1947, there was one side who said yes, the Zionist movement, and one side said no and started a war, which continues 75 years, even when Israel is a flourishing, developed country. And this is the Arab side, who always, as one of our ambassadors to the UN, Abba Ibn, used to say, the Arabs never miss the chance to miss a chance. And when the Palestinians had a very generous and controversial suggestions from Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak or Ehud Olmert, lots of controversy among the Israelis. Why would Israel be so generous? The Palestinians never came back. Never. Not Arafat, not Abu Mazen. They didn't want to go to the extra mile. And then it's very easy to blame Israel of being colonialist. People forget that Israel left Gaza Strip in 2006, leaving no soldier behind, destroying all the settlements and taking out 8,500 settlers by a decision of Prime Minister Sharon. And the answer of the Hamas in 2007 was rockets and fires and missiles after leaving Gaza Strip. Never miss a chance to miss the chance. This is the Palestinian motto. And it should be written, it should be said, it should be public. Not that Israel didn't make a mistake. One of the mistakes Israel made is the conception that the Hamas will be moderated. This conception collapsed. A misjudgment of the Israeli government. There were mistakes of intelligence. There were lots of mistakes. But there is quite clear ruthless enemy of monsters who kill babies and burn them in the oven, taking babies to the oven and turning it on. This is not Israel, and it should be on social media again and again and again. Never get tired. That's my way, as I see it as an Israeli, now serving in Canada with the Jewish community, working here with this very important Jewish community with all the federations. I mentioned the smallest, and the largest is obviously Toronto. We have a role in this battle. That's my belief. And I feel very optimistic when I see the Jewish world united behind Israel. How will it end? It might depend on the President of the United States, who is very involved, because Israel doesn't have an unlimited time for a war when it comes to the US. And the question is what will be achieved on the ground in this war with the soldiers of Israel fighting those who are there to kill Israelis. And now, Omer, I'm willing to take questions if you might have.
Okay, I start with the questions, and if someone has a question, you can write on the chat or raise your hand here at the Zoom. The first question that I have is the Gaza border. It's very watched by the army all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So how something like this even happened?
That's a very good question. Look, what happened is, according to what we know, it's going to be investigation on all levels. Once the war is over, and one of the things we know, that all the cameras that supervise Gaza Strip were destroyed by the Hamas at the first moments. And it became, and the people, the soldiers became blind, the Israeli soldiers. And they couldn't see what's going on. They couldn't see the 3,000 people who crossed the border. And they couldn't see when they entered their base the base which overlooking the Gaza Strip. So what they did is they made Israeli IDF, the IDF blind. The main issue here also, once this is being asked, where was the intelligence? We know that Israel was able to get the archives of the Iranian regime from Tehran. So how come Israel was not aware that they trained to this horrible attack for over probably around a year? So there are lots of things to be asked, and we don't have all the information right now, but I have no doubt that lots of things will be investigated at the end of the war, including the responsibility of the intelligence, of the army, of the decision makers for this tragedy, and this is a tragedy, no doubt.
Okay, we have another question in the chat. How can we as American or Canadian best help to Israel right now, in addition what we have already mentioned?
What, say it again?
How can we as Americans best help Israel right now?
Well, I think I answered it, that the support, the continuous support is very, very important. All the levels you think of. I would love to see more support in rallies and in the streets. For instance, in Canada, and I told the Canadians head of federations that we see lots of pro-Palestinian. We have to see more pro-Israel, more Israeli flags, for instance. And as I said before, social media is crucial, mainly for campuses. What's going on in North America is horrible. Jewish students, at least in Canada, they are concerned of having them Star of David necklace because of the situation. So there is a huge anti-Israel and anti-Semitism sentiment. So the way to empower the students is very important also in any way. And if there is a university that gives the pro-Hamas a way to protest, write a letter to the head of the university, to the president. And what's going on? You're pro-Hamas? You're pro-beheading babies? What's going on in the university? Things should be asked bluntly. Yes, please.
Okay, my next question is, what about all the people that can't live in their home anymore? Where are they going, and who is helping them right now? Because there's many kibbutzim
from the south?
Yes. And also, as we know, from the north also.
The north, there are mainly in hotels. But those from the south, it's a good question. What happens once the war is over? Because some of them don't have homes to come back to. They are in a few places in Israel, mainly in the city of Eilat, the southern city, which has 60,000 citizens. Now it's doubled. And the schools are in shifts. 8 to 1, 1 to 5, because they have 60,000 more people. Also in Dead Sea area, which is safe. And it's totally unknown. We have provisional houses. When we had the huge immigration waves, we used this temporary housing. They might have to get there until houses are built, because building a house takes time. So I don't know what will be the solution. Right now, they are in temporary residential areas in Eilat and the Dead Sea, and also in one kibbutz not far away from Tel Aviv. And there should be a lot of money to restore and to rebuild all these neighborhoods and kibbutzim. Some of them were burned totally.
Thank you. You can explain what the Jewish agency doing for the college and university to help the Jewish student over there?
Yes, absolutely. We have it's not connected to the this specific war. We have a program in 70 something campuses in the United States and 2 in Canada of what we call Israeli fellows, working with Hillel to support Jewish students. This is the main goal, and we continue doing it. And it's very, very important to continue these days, but all the times. And we try to expand this program, bringing young adults at the age of usually 22 to 26 to campuses for 2 years, to help Jewish students and to give them information and tools to be proud of their Jewishness, not hiding it. So we are working on this program all year round, and nowadays it's even more important and more urgent that we continue, and I hope more campuses will join, more Hillel houses will join.
Okay, I see more questions at the chat, but the chat just disappeared for me. So
yeah.
Okay, I'll help with that.
Yeah, thank you.
So the next question in the chat is: sentiment has turned against Israel and the short memory of what happened on October 7th. Why do you think Israel is holding back on releasing at least excerpts of the film you saw?
The reason is that the families of the victims asked so far to keep the privacy, which is not the case on that film. You see faces, you don't see faces of people who were killed, but you see the car plate. So, and you know, you don't see exactly who is sitting in, but you see the car plate. You see those 2 kids with their faces after the father was killed. So the families were okay with having this film for the IDF, showing it around the world, but not as public as I think it should be. My sense is that at the end of the day, when the anti-Semitism might grow, it will be on YouTube. I think it's just a matter of time that it will be. Now, it's very, look, I was a journalist, and I had and at the beginning I didn't want to watch those clips of the Hamas. There is a telegram. I'll tell you what's the name of it, just that you know, just the name. It called Hamas Atrocities Documentation on the Telegram. And I didn't want to watch. And someone told me, you are an Israeli journalist. You are talking about these issues. You cannot have an ostrich policy that if things are so difficult, you don't watch them. You have to watch it. And it made sense. So I went on online and I watched this on Telegram. It was very difficult. Very difficult. So 60% of what I saw is on the film. 40% I haven't seen. And people can watch it now if they feel. I think it's important to know and to take some clips from there, those who are not too overwhelmed. There are some that the emotions, you cannot hold your emotions, but there are some, you know, seeing a house with full of holes of bullets, You know, you can understand what happened then when you see all the holes that there were just machine guns. Who was there inside was killed, or you see the stains of blood. So you can understand. You don't have to see the actual shooting, which is also part when you see the Hamas shooting at people and shooting at dogs and bodies that were burned. So maybe there will be at the end a version that is more feasible to watch, if I can say that, because not all the pictures and the footage is in the same level of cruelty. I watched the Hamas clips, I watched the IDF film, and for those who deny it and also said that Hamas is just militants, like the CBC TV and radio in Canada, this is the answer: to show the unpleasant reality to people who have something to say, and then see what they say. Do they support this? Are they in favor of this? Let them speak out and say, yes, we are for it. I doubt. Yes, please.
Okay, the next question is after the last week murder of the Jewish protester in Los Angeles, what would you say to those who feel afraid to go to rallies?
I'm sorry, I haven't heard.
Last week, murder of the Jewish what happened in Los Angeles?
Yes.
So what do you say to those who feel afraid to go to the rallies and to join the protest for Israel?
There was a jihad threat on October 13th that Jewish institutions will be affected, and people were afraid to send their kids to Jewish schools in Canada. We cannot surround it to fear, because this is the goal of the terrorists, to make us fearful, and afraid. I mean, what's next? We will take off the mezuzah from our homes. We will take the Jewish kids out from Jewish education or Sunday schools or JCCs. Where's the end? There should be a lot of work on the legislation level and the police and the governors. It's time to protect. We want to march next Sunday at 2, and we have to be protected. Thank you, Mr. Sheriff, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, our senator, to take care of this. Speak up. Otherwise, yeah, to be protected, to feel comfortable. That's the time, and hopefully in the future things will calm down and we don't need that. But I don't think, I understand why it's very personal. I understand why people are afraid, but sitting in a shelter, closing the doors and the windows because they want to threaten us. And then where is our limit? Where do we stop this fear? I do hope, and it's very personal, I respect any decision of people. I did respect people who didn't send their school kids, and our Jewish emissaries who works in school were asked not to come to the school on that day, and I thought I was against it. I said, this is a message. If the Israelis cannot come to the Canadian schools, obviously Canadian parents will not send their kids there, because if the Israelis do not come, for sure we cannot do that. So that's my personal opinion. I cannot advise other people what to do. I'm saying it honestly and openly. That's my personal view.
Thank you. You're probably aware. So my name is Deborah. I work, as you know, with Omer and the Jewish Federation of Greater Nashville. You are probably aware, and hopefully everyone on this call is aware, but there is a very large national rally being planned for next Tuesday, November the 14th. We have a large contingent who will be going from Nashville. And so our hope is that will be part of what you're talking about.
Exactly.
A very large public rally through DC, they're hoping for a very, from what everything I'm seeing and
Right.
reading, it will be a very large public
I
rally.
know, at the mall, and
Correct.
our the head of the Jewish agency, who is a General Doron Almog, will be speaking there, not only as a general and the head of the Jewish agency. Unfortunately, he lost 6 members from his family on that Saturday. So he has history of fighting against terrorists. He was in the South Commander Brigade, and he's a general, and he now is a victim of terror. And it's a very important that people will be there and raise their voice. We should raise our voice on a TikTok, on the mall, on a social media, and in Nashville Main Square, in Canada, Toronto, Israeli flags. We against monsters who kill babies. There should be a settlement in Gaza Strip. We don't think that the poverty should go on. There should be a way to look at it, but there are peaceful ways, not this way. It doesn't work in a civilized world. We are part of the civilized world. Where is the civilized? Look, it was amazing how many world leaders came to Israel that week. President Biden was the first, but Prime Minister of the UK, and the President of France, the Italian Prime Minister, the Chancellor from Germany, just came to show their respect and support. So it's important. I'm grateful for what you are doing, and I think it's really, really important. We are gonna also, the Shlichim, probably, I don't know if Omer will travel, but many Shlichim were asked to come to Washington, D.C. to participate, to show their support. Important. And it will be covered by the media.
Yes, Omer will definitely be there. I also want to take this opportunity to introduce another of our team members at the Jewish Federation, Yaron Resnick, to share another public program that's planned for Sunday to do exactly what you're suggesting. Yaron, if you'll share about the stroller march on Sunday.
Happily. Hi, everybody. My name is Yaron Resnick, and I've been involved. Here, I'll put my screen on so you see me. Hi, shalom kulam. I've been involved with an organization here called Tennessee Stands with Israel, in addition to my role with the Federation. So I'm honored to be on both ends and supporting from so many directions. We recently, about 2 weeks ago, had a large rally here in Nashville. We had nearly 1,000 people attend. Yeah, we were very happy about that. And then this Sunday, we've organized yet another rally, but it is in the form of a march. And we will be having strollers at this march to represent the children who are still being held captive in Gaza. And this march is going to begin at 3 p.m. on Sunday. And we're meeting outside of the Frist Art Museum. And the plan is to walk down together, unified, down Broadway, and meet at the very end of Broadway. So the plan is that the moms with the strollers each has a photo of the kidnapped children in each stroller. Will walk first, and those that have come out to support us will march with us behind us. And then we'll all end up down at the bottom of Broadway where you meet the water, and essentially plan a demonstration where we'll stand with the strollers, plan to light candles we'll hand out candles to those who have marched with us in honor of those we have lost, and to bring awareness. And we're hoping that people stop and ask and want to learn more about the truth of what's happening. So that's been our effort. And we have a website and everything. It's been amazing to see how the Israeli American communities come together to work also with the Federation and bring awareness. So if anyone needs any more information about that, you can certainly let me know. Sunday at 3 p.m.
Thank you, Yaron. I'll also post your email address in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
There's another question in the chat. And this is a tough one, what will Israel's long-term plan after the war be in regard to Gaza?
Oh, I wish I knew. I think one of the reasons the administration in Washington is sometimes frustrated because the administration doesn't get the answer to this question. So President Biden asked the same question. Now, it's not a secret that the government of Israel before this horrible attack was the most right-wing government we ever had. Not into any negotiation with the Palestinians, looking at the Palestinian Authority as a Hamas. I think people are aware now that this is not the same. Having said that, I don't think that there is sentiment for resuming negotiation with the Palestinians is going to be very popular right now in Israel. The main question is who's going to control Gaza? Will it be the Hamas in a lower capacity after being diminished with his, but still a ceasefire with the Hamas, or the Palestinian Authority will take over either by itself or with the participation of the Hamas, because the Hamas is a movement. It's not just 5,000 people and 10 leaders. It's more than that. So I think the key to try to think what's going to happen next is who's going to control Gaza Strip. But I'm sure that the president will try to urge the Israelis and the Palestinians to resume the talks, and despite the anti-peace process sentiment. So I don't have a clear answer for that. I can only say that in the past, when we had the tragic war events, it led to pro-peace initiatives. After the huge suffering of Yom Kippur War with 2,700 soldiers who were killed in Israel, the peace came 4 years later with a fearful enemy. After the first Intifada, the Oslo Accord happened, which didn't lead to a peace, but it happened. After the second Intifada, the disengagement from Gaza came under Prime Minister Sharon. So I don't know what will be the aftermath effect of an earthquake, but this is an earthquake, and there will be an aftermath. I just cannot predict what's going to be right now. Unfortunately, I don't have all the answers, as I said at the beginning. I'm trying to do my best.
Another question has come through to me in the chat. Is it possible for all the world to see what Gaza looked like in 2004, 2005, the condition of the land, buildings, homes, and how the evicted Israelis left the land of Gaza? Then all the world needs to see what Gaza looked like year after year, the destruction of Gaza under Hamas taking over after 2007.
I agree. Well, people have to understand what the Hamas did to Gaza, and nothing good. But there are also Palestinians who say that. There are some clips of the Palestinian cursing Hamas people. This should be translated into English and put all over social media. For instance, when we talk about Palestinians, they see the Hamas coming with the hostages, and you destroyed us. You should go, and cursing them. A Palestinian not being paid by anyone, but very angry. This is something that people have to see, that the Palestinians suffer under Hamas. And the Palestinians says this, not Israel, not President Biden, no one, just a Palestinian ordinary who talks in sound bites and should be on any social media.
Amy, did you want to go ahead and unmute and ask the second part of your question?
What? I'm sorry?
I was just asking the person who posted privately if she wanted to ask. Oh, go ahead. Amy's here.
Thank you, Deborah. Hello, everybody. But I really do feel that somehow the world needs to see what Gaza was with, the Jewish people, the Israelis living there, along with the people of Gaza, Palestinians, whatever you want to call them, and what the Israelis left. Isn't there a way to portray that to the world? I've never seen it. I knew what it looked like before, but I think it would be amazing to see that. And Deborah, I'm not sure what my second question might be, but just that I learned that in Canada, Canadians can't see on on their social media political posts. It's forbidden. It's against the law. And I put this in the chat, an article regarding that. Canadians can no longer have access to news content on Facebook and Instagram. Meta says it's against Canadian law. So really, just two pieces of information, and seeing what Gaza was and is now would be like, not now, but like 2010 compared to 2004. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for these comments. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions before we are gonna wrap up? So, Deborah, with your permission, I'd like.
Yes, please go. Yes, I don't see any other questions.
I would like to finish in an optimistic way. Israel is going to win this war because Israel has no other choice. And it's not going to be easy. It might take some time. But Israel, if we look back at the last 75 years, where Israel was in the 50s and then in 6 Days War and 73 and the assassination of a prime minister, and still Israel is strong and the Israeli spirit will win. And we see the Israeli spirit, despite all the controversy, the division, the disagreements, and the Israeli temperament, which is totally different than the American one. Israel has no other choice, and Israel will win the war. So I'd like to thank you very much for having me and asking wonderful, amazing questions. And I wish you good luck in Nashville and good luck in Washington, D.C. And hopefully we'll meet only in a good and positive occasions.
Thank you so much for your time and for joining us. Omer, any closing thoughts from you?
No, I just really want to thank you, Yaron, for joining us and speaking with your knowledge. And thank you all for being in this Zoom, me specifically, to see that many people is caring about what's happening in Israel. It really makes me feel good in those horrible days. And I wish you all just peace and quiet days.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Amen. Amen.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all for joining us. We will
Amen.
follow up with some details about Yaron's the March Sunday and the March in Washington on Tuesday. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.